Over 157 nations, 81% of all UN member states, say Palestine is a sovereign country. Yet it cannot join the United Nations as a full member. The reason? A single permanent member, the United States, has used its veto again and again to block it. Across the Gulf of Aden, Somaliland declared independence in 1991. It prints its own money, mans its own borders, and holds elections. Only one UN member state, Israel, in late December 2025, recognizes it. And Taiwan, a thriving democracy, governs a defined territory yet was expelled from the UN in 1971 under Resolution 2758. 3 places, 3 dead ends. The same problem, a 4-point legal test says they should be countries. But the test fails the moment politics steps in. In 1933, 19 countries gathered in Uruguay and signed the Montevideo Convention. They needed a clean definition of statehood, so they laid down 4 criteria: a permanent population, a defined territory, a functioning government, and the ability to enter into relations with other states. If you tick those 4 boxes, you're a state, at least according to the declarative theory written into the treaty. The convention even stated that a state's political existence doesn't depend on recognition by others. But here's the twist. At the exact same time, a much older idea, the constitutive theory, lurked in the halls of power. Born at the Congress of Vienna in 1815, it says a state only exists when a great power says it does. So from the very beginning, the legal test had a political shadow. The checklist gave small nations a claim. The great powers kept the pen. By 1945, the world had a new gatekeeper, the United Nations. To join the club, a state, or a would-be state, needs a recommendation from the Security Council. That takes 9 out of 15 votes, but crucially, no veto from any of the 5 permanent members, the US, Russia, China, the UK, and France. If the Council says yes, the application then moves to the General Assembly, where it needs a 2/3 majority. On paper, this is just a procedure. In reality, it hands a kill switch to exactly 5 capitals. One country can block the dream of millions. So the Montevideo checklist becomes secondary. The only thing that matters is whether your government can survive the geopolitical battlefield of the Security Council. The result is a permanent traffic jam, where legal countries wait decades while political games decide their fate. Take Palestine. As of September 2025, 157 UN member states, a full 81%, recognize it as a sovereign state. In 2012, it upgraded its UN status from a mere observer entity to a non-member observer state, the same category held only by the Holy See. By the Montevideo test, it has a population, a territory, disputed as it may be, a functioning government, and diplomatic relations with scores of countries. But full membership? That's been blocked. The United States, a permanent member of the Security Council, has consistently vetoed its application. The legal checklist is ticked, but the political box remains empty. It's the purest example of how constitutive theory overrides declarative law. The US argues that statehood should come through a peace process. The result is that millions of Palestinians live under an authority that the world overwhelmingly recognizes, yet their state remains locked out of the UN's top table. Now look south to the Horn of Africa. In 1991, as Somalia collapsed into civil war, the former British Protectorate of Somaliland declared independence. Today it has a permanent population of millions, clearly defined borders, a government that collects taxes, and even its own currency. It issues passports that a few countries, very few, accept. For decades, not a single UN member recognized it, despite the fact that it met every Montevideo criterion. Then on December 26, 2025, Israel became the first. The recognition triggered an emergency session of the Security Council, but the number remains 1 out of 193. Somaliland cannot join the IMF, cannot borrow money, cannot sign international treaties. It's a geographical reality without a legal personality. The African Union, terrified of opening a Pandora's box of secessionist movements, keeps it in diplomatic isolation. So a stable, democratic entity is punished for having the wrong kind of birth, a birth outside the approved political script. Taiwan is the ultimate stress test. It governs a territory of 23 million people, has a stable democratic government, and maintains a network of unofficial missions across the globe. It ticks the Montevideo boxes as clearly as France or Brazil. But in 1971, UN General Assembly Resolution 2758 transferred China's seat from the Republic of China to the People's Republic of China and expelled Taiwan's representatives. Since that moment, Taiwan has been a ghost, uninvited to UN sessions, its statehood unrecognized by most of the world's governments. And it isn't alone. The UN officially counts 193 member states and just 2 non-member observer states, the Holy See and Palestine. But in the shadows, at least a dozen other entities meet the legal criteria for statehood while lacking universal recognition: Kosovo, Northern Cyprus, Transnistria, Abkhazia, the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic. All function like real countries, all are officially nothing. This gap between the Montevideo checklist and the UN's political membership creates a two-tier world. Some states exist in fact and in law, others exist in fact but are legally invisible, held in diplomatic purgatory by the interests of great powers. The Montevideo Convention gave us a clean, rational test for statehood in 1933. But from the Congress of Vienna to the UN Security Council, the real gatekeepers have always been great powers. The result is a global system where some countries are born but not recognized, and others are recognized but not fully born. Palestine, Somaliland, and Taiwan are not anomalies, they are the predictable output of a system that elevates politics above law. As long as 5 nations hold the veto, this two-tier reality will persist. What happens next? Consider this: the CIA's World Factbook, first published in secret in 1962, now regularly receives inquiries from territories that want to be listed as countries. That quiet pressure reveals a truth the UN cannot escape: statehood is never finally decided. Maps are redrawn.